Now Radharani, she appeared as Kirtida Suta, the daughter of Kirtida and Vrishabhanu Maharaj. But now if we look at her parents, her father's name is Vrishabhanu. So the word the word Bhanu in Sanskrit, it means appearance, it means bright, it means brilliant, it means light, it means to reveal something is Bhanu. So he was a worshipper. One of his Ishtadevs, he used to worship the sun god. And he was praying to the sun god, please bless me with an auspicious family, with nice children, with another child. So from that brightness of Vrishabhanu came Vrishabhanu Nandini, his daughter. So it's natural that she's so brilliant and so effulgent that her father's name is Vrishabhanu, that he has this name, Vrishabhanu. So she took her effulgence, she took her brilliance is coming from her father. Now her mother's name is Kirtida. So the Acharyas explained Kirti means fame, means popularity, fame, or notoriety, popularity, fame. This is Kirti. Kirtida means one who gives fame. So in Ramananda Samvag, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is discussing with Ramananda Roy, and he asked Ramananda Roy, who is a famous person? Who is a famous person in this world? If someone is in this world, what will qualify them to be considered famous? So then Ramananda Roy said, actually, if someone has pure love, if someone is a Krishna Premika Bhakta, if he is a pure devotee, a pure lover of Krishna, that is the greatest fame that anyone could ever attain. That is the greatest fame that anyone could ever attain in this world, to become known as a pure devotee of the Lord. Just like our Srila Prabhupada. He's becoming more and more famous. Because not only he's famous because of his accomplishments in Krishna consciousness and because of all his preaching, but he's famous primarily because of his pure devotion. And he, as we hear from his biography, he was blessed by every sadhu that passed through Calcutta. Every sadhu and saint and sant that passed through Calcutta would stop at the house of Gaura Mohan Dey and give their ashirvad. Yes, Radharani Shura Bhakta Tatastu. Right? Radharani Shura Bhakta Tatastu. May your son become a pure devotee of Radharani. So they were all blessing. Of course, Prabhupada didn't need their blessings. He already was a pure. He came as a pure devotee. He didn't become pure. He is eternally pure, Nitya Siddha. At any rate, he showed this relationship, how we're always dependent on mercy from above. We should act like that and always beg for mercy. So Prabhupada was that pure devotee. So Kirtida is the mother of Radharani. So because of the intense affection of Mother Kirtida, she tied up Radharani with the knot of her paternal affection. She tied Radharani in her heart, and she attracted the Prema Lakshmi. Radharani is known as Prema Lakshmi, the goddess of Prem. She attracted the Prema Lakshmi to come into her womb and appear in this world. So by the mercy of Kirtida, anyone can take shelter of her daughter, Radhacharan Ashraya, or Radhapada Ashraya, take shelter of Radharani's lotus feet. And by taking shelter of Radharani's lotus feet, one can attain Krishna Prema and he will become famous. So Kirtida, the mother of Srimati Radharani, she's really Kirtida because she's giving everyone in this world a chance to become truly famous by attaining pure love for Radha and Krishna. So this is another point to consider. Just the Kirtida, Vrishabhanu, then now the birth itself, it's described that after she was born, she was living for some time, few weeks, few months, whatever, few weeks we can say, in her place in Raval. Then Narada Muni came there. This is described in Patal Kanda, Padma Puran. Narada Muni came there to have darshan of Radharani. So when he entered the house and the palace in Raval, he offered his dandavat pranams. He circumambulated the tiny child, tiny baby Radharani, and he started offering so many prayers. And then Vrishabhanu Maharaj, he had tears in his eyes, he was very upset, and he folded his hands and he was petitioning and begging Narada Muni He said, you see, my daughter, Radharani, Radha, or Priyaji, or whatever he would say, Radhika, she is Jananda Bara Akriti. She's a Jananda Bara Akriti. I think like that word. And because her eyes were closed. Her eyes were totally closed. So Vrishabhanu had said, oh, Narada Muni, you see, my daughter is Jananda. She is blind, deaf, dumb, and blind. She's not saying anything. Her eyes are closed to this world. And I'm so worried about her. But you're a great saint. So with your prasana dristi, this phrase is there, with your prasana dristi, with your, how do you say, your look of satisfaction, or if you glance at her with your glance of satisfaction, if you look pleasingly, in other words, if you look pleasingly, like we want to get the favorable glance of the spiritual master, we don't want to get the furrowed eyebrows and, you get out from here! You know, we want the friendly face, we want the pleasing glance of the spiritual master, the Guru Kripa Kataksha. the Guru Kripa Kataksha. So he said, Prasanna Dristi, please you glance favorably, just by your glance, by your dristi, then I'm sure you can cure her blindness. And Narada Muni, he said, oh Maharaj, I'm very sorry. I cannot cure her blindness. Not only can I not cure her blindness, but none of the Devatas can cure her blindness. Even Ashwini Kumars cannot cure her blindness. These are the great celestial physicians, Ashwini Kumar. No one can cure her blindness. And Vrishabhanu was very disturbed, very worried. My little Lali, my daughter will be blind, no speaking for her whole life. And then, seeing that Vrishabhanu was somewhat morose, then Narada Muni said, no, don't worry, but you should understand that wherever your daughter places her feet, then that home becomes a residence of Lord Narayan. And Lakshmi Devi herself is living there. And all auspicious things will manifest in that home, wherever this little girl is living. So then, hearing that prediction and blessing, Vrishabhanu lightened his mood a little bit and smiled slightly. Yeah, that's nice. Goddess of Fortune will live here in Narayan. But okay, but what about, I want to see her face. I want to see her eyes blinking. So anyway, Narada Muni, he offered some more prayers and he went away. He flew away. So now after some few days, then Yashoda Ma, Nanda Baba, they are in Gokul, just as Krishna eternally appears in Bajravan, Mahavan, and Gokul. Radharani eternally appears as the daughter of Kirtida and Vrishabhanu and Raval. So they came over to have darshan of Vrishabhanu, they're very close friends, and see Radhika. So Radhika was in a golden, it's described in Bhakti Ratnakara, Radhika was lying in a gem-studded golden cradle scented with sandalwood. Sounds pretty exotic. A gem-studded, a golden cradle studded with gems and somehow scented with pure sandalwood. And she was lying there being rocked in her cradle by these elderly gopis. Then Nanda Baba, Yashoda Ma came and Krishna came and he was just crawling around. So he immediately crawled up to that cradle where Radharani was. And then he crawled up to the cradle. It's told in different ways, but then what I read, he looked and he saw Radharani, then he just touched her. And as soon as Krishna, Gopal, touched Radharani, then immediately her eyes started fluttering. Her eyes started fluttering, opening, closing, like first time opening. And then she opened her eyes fully, and she saw face to face, or as Gaura Govinda Maharaj would say, it was eye to eye union. This was the first eye to eye union with Radharani and Krishna. And they were, and then Radharani started smiling and started making some sounds that only Krishna knew. Her own baby talk. In her baby talk, she was saying, Krishna, I love you, I love you, I love you. Just like when Prabhupada was in Radha Damodar, and there was one monkey came to the door, and Yamuna relates this in the Lila Amrita, Yamuna Devi, and Prabhupada was speaking to the monkey. He was speaking some monkey talk. Yamuna Dasi, afterwards she said, Prabhupada, I saw you were speaking to this monkey. What were you saying? Prabhupada said, it's simple. I told him, don't come around here and bother me anymore. So Prabhupada can speak to monkeys, and Krishna can speak the language of the birds, And certainly as a baby, he can convey all his love to Radharani through the language of his eyes or his words or his gurgling or bubbling or whatever. And like that. So this is, and then Radharani opened her eyes and she was so smiling and so became so animated. But before she was Jadananda. Jadanda means Jada means stone-like. So we can see an analogous or a similarity between the birth of Balaram and the birth of Srimati Radharani. In Gopal Champa we heard from Dinabandhu that when Lord Balaram appeared, that he was also, the word that was used, Jadanda. He was Jadanda. He was like stone-like when he appeared. He was not crying, not moving. He was just hands not moving. Even usually babies moving a finger or a toe or something is moving, some sign of life. But a stone does not show any signs of life. So that's the description, is Jadarup. Balaram showed his Jadarup. He was many days, for several days. Then right before Krishna appeared from the womb of Yashoda, then Rohini took Jadarup Balaram, baby Balaram, and put him on the lap of Krishna. As soon as he was on the lap of Krishna, and he got next to Krishna, he was associating with Krishna, he was connected with Krishna with his vibration, he could hear Krishna in the womb. Then he started moving his fingers, he started opening his eyes and smiling and making little gurgling sounds. Krishna, or whatever, he was communicating. So he was explaining that Balaram, he appeared in this world, but the whole purpose of his life, the purpose of his every moment, is to serve and please Krishna. So in separation from Krishna, he didn't want to take any part in this world. He didn't even want to move a finger in this world. He was just like Jadarup. So Radharani, in the same way, that when she was born, but she was born blind to this world, she didn't want to see anything in this world until she could see Krishna. Feast her eyes, Nayanotsav. Feast her eyes on the beautiful form Sham Sundar. So we can draw some philosophical point to relate this to ourselves, that the living entity or the conditioned souls, when they're disconnected from Krishna and they're not in association with Krishna, they're living a stone-like life, like a stone-like existence. Remember there was one movie, it was called Night of the Living Dead. So I like that phrase, living dead, because Prabhupada uses a similar phrase. That although they appear to be alive, we're talking, we're moving, we're working, we're getting education, actually the soul is dead. The soul inside, for the conditioned soul that is not associating with Krishna, surrendering to Him, serving to Him, the soul is just like that, like Balaram or like Radharani, blind. The soul is blind. The soul is deaf, dumb, and blind, packed up inside, just sleeping like Jadarup, just sleeping. The soul is waiting. When will I get next to Krishna? When will I see Krishna? And this person, this conditioned soul, and when will he turn his face towards Krishna? When will he put me near Krishna and forget about Maya? So we see that just as Balaram, as soon as he got next to Krishna, he became alive and animated and happy and expressive. And Radharani opened her eyes when she felt the touch of Krishna. So similarly, when conditioned souls, when they get the touch of Krishna, when they contact Krishna through His name or through His devotees or mercy or whatever, then they become alive. It's called spiritual life. We call it spiritual life. In other words, life without the spirit is no life at all. Because life means the Atma. Atma Jeev, we say Jeev Atma. So the Atma is the real life, the source of life. So this is when we're sleeping in a dead condition, but we connect with Krishna, then we come alive.